In 1949, Oregon State Senator Dean Walker announced that he wanted to ban popcorn in movie theaters, and right away, newspapers all across the continent picked up the story. Everyone had an opinion. Like this Canadian journalist who said that anyone ever afflicted at the movies by a bag-rattling popcorn muncher will undoubtedly support the senator. Or this reporter from Georgia on the opposite side of the fight, speaking up in righteous protest. Popcorn is an American staple, they say. We'd rather ban the movies than give up our favorite snack. Here's a paper in Oregon wishing the senator good luck. And here's one from North Carolina who wants Dean Walker cooked alive in a giant peanut roaster for even suggesting a popcorn ban. Things got so heated that I even found a pair of dueling popcorn poems, one attacking Dean Walker for his cruel idea, and the other praising the senator for taking a stand against the plump, disgusting colonel. Clearly, people had some strong opinions on popcorn. But before we go any further, how about we slow down a bit and take a look at the actual bill that Senator Walker wanted to pass. Like, what exactly did he want to accomplish here? Well, it's pretty simple. The Walker bill would make it unlawful to operate a theater in Oregon unless the theater completely prohibits the eating of popcorn. And if a theater does find a patron eating popcorn, then they're supposed to give the guy his money back and throw him out of the building. An absolutely zero tolerance policy for popcorn. And as for the motivation behind the bill, well, that's pretty simple too. Popcorn is annoying, and it's loud, and it's distracting, and it's just kind of a pet peeve for Senator Walker. He cannot focus on the movie when someone is chomping away right next to him. But that's not all. Senator Walker also wrote kind of a strange little detail into his bill. See, under this potential new law, if a moviegoer finds somebody else eating popcorn at a showing, then they are entitled to alert the theater and get 3 times their money back. Triple their money for tattling on popcorn eaters. And if the theater refuses to pay, then the moviegoer can take them to court over it. So I guess all those theaters out there better be ready to like strip search everybody coming in to see a movie, because if somebody does manage to smuggle in some popcorn, then the theater might all of a sudden be paying out triple ticket price to everybody else at the showing who might have heard the person eating. And on top of that, remember, they also got to give the popcorn smuggler a full refund too. So unsurprisingly, with that kind of strong language and the heavy media coverage that Senator Walker was getting, the anti-popcorn bill led to some pretty bizarre proceedings in the Oregon State Senate, to say the least. Like pretty much right off the bat, things started to get strange. Just 2 days after Dean Walker introduced his bill, he came to work in the morning and found that someone had snuck through the State House and left bags of popcorn on the desks of all of the senators. Which leads us to this truly fantastic picture of Senator Dean Walker advocating for his anti-popcorn bill with a whole crowd of other senators standing right behind him eating popcorn. And by the way, several of those other senators are actually co-sponsors of the anti-popcorn bill. And there they are, just standing right behind Walker, chomping away. But hey, as crazy as that image is, the real main event was still yet to come. On April 11th, 1949, the Oregon State House hosted a public hearing on the anti-popcorn bill, and this is where things really got wild. You're just kind of gonna have to bear with me a bit here, because I found a whole ton of different newspaper articles and stories covering this hearing. And so what I'm gonna try and do here is walk you through the events of the evening as best as I can piece them together. Because several different journalists were in the room that night, and each one seemed to hear and see different things. So let's just start off at the beginning. Before the hearing proceedings even got underway, a senator from Portland named Jack Bain showed up dressed like a popcorn vendor and handed out a free bag of popcorn to the 50 or so spectators who came to watch the hearing. Then he shouted out to the room that he stood in full opposition to the bill, and he took his seat. With that kind of pageantry, it might not surprise you that Senator Jack Bain was a vaudeville actor for 20 years before he got involved in government. And he kind of really set the tone for the hearing too, because showmanship was very quickly going to become the theme of the night. The first man up to speak against the bill was a guy named Ted Gamble, the chairman of the Board of Theater Owners of America, a very eccentric man with quite the interesting past. Gamble got his start in the theater world as a janitor before eventually working his way up to a manager and then a theater owner himself. Here's a nice picture of him taking over the operations of a theater in Portland. Gamble also became the country's #1 war bond salesman during World War II. And here's a nice picture of him showing the famous Iwo Jima flag-raising photo to an American general. And Gamble also once agreed to let his barber give him a shave in an airplane for no discernible reason. And here's a nice picture of that happening. Apparently, the shave went well until a glob of shaving cream flew off of Gamble's chin, smacked the airplane pilot in the head, and caused the plane to free fall out of the air for a few hundred yards. And when I say that Gamble and the barber did this for no reason, I am not exaggerating. Or at the very least, I myself cannot find a reason that makes any sense. I found exactly one article about this event printed in several different newspapers, and here it is in its entirety. According to this, Gamble was joking about getting a close shave with his barber, and the barber just said, "Oh, close shave, huh? Well, how about I give you a shave in an airplane?" And then Gamble said, "Well, okay." And then they just did it, and that is all the motivation that the article includes. They just did it on a complete whim, apparently. Anyway, though, as funny as that little anecdote is, I can promise you that when Gamble took the stand at that popcorn hearing, there was zero humor in his voice. No way. He was all business. Immediately, he launched into this big, fiery argument. "We serve popcorn at theaters because that's what the public wants," he says. 75% of our patrons purchase popcorn. It's a huge part of our business. If you pass this bill, then many of Oregon's theaters will be forced to close. And that sounds like a pretty compelling argument, right? But Gamble was not done there, not by a long shot. He continued to speak for quite a while, and as he did, he continued, bit by bit, to get more and more excited about the whole thing. He says, "Eating concessions at the movies is like eating hot dogs at a ball game. This bill is un-American. Like, what do you even want us to do? Reach into people's pockets and see if they're trying to sneak in any popcorn? Like, I can't even believe that the government of Oregon wants to try and tell people what they can and can't put in their stomachs. If you don't like popcorn, then just stay home. We don't even want you at the movies." Just how could an intelligent group of legislators ever come up with this stupid idea? It's the most ridiculous piece of legislation that I've ever heard of. It infringes on human rights. This bill is socialism. And let me tell you, that last comment there really got everyone fired up. Right away, a senator named Mahoney came charging up to the stand, hollering right back at Gamble. "I'll have you know that Senator Dean Walker, the man who wrote this bill, is a staunch Republican. And you're gonna come up here and call him a socialist? How dare you?" And by the way, I should probably tell you at this point that Dean Walker is not even at the hearing. Like, he didn't even show up. He went to another meeting instead. And in fact, only 2 of the 9 senators sponsoring the Walker bill were actually in attendance that night. So just in terms of numbers alone, the anti-popcorn coalition was gonna have some trouble. especially because they only planned for one witness to testify in support of the bill. Yeah, after Mahoney got done screaming at Gamble, the two men accused each other of being drunk, and then Gamble stepped down off the podium, and up came Jon Mandarin, the sole speaker in support of the bill. And Jon is basically just a random guy, like an average citizen from Salem, Oregon, who says that he doesn't go to the movies anymore because other people eating popcorn is super distracting. Or at least, he tries to say that. The problem is that nobody can hear him because the sound of all the spectators eating their free popcorn and rattling their bags around is now so loud and so annoying that it's drowning out the testimony of the witness. Isn't that just incredible? They're trying to have a hearing about loud popcorn, but they can't because of loud popcorn. So Senator Mahoney, that guy who got all angry about the socialist comment, he gets all worked up again, and he has security go around and confiscate everybody's free popcorn. And then he raises up his voice and he hollers out, "If these people want to eat popcorn, then send them outside and let them eat with the hogs." And the crowd goes, boo. And by the way, here is where we get one of my favorite details in the whole story. Remember Senator Jack Bain, that guy who handed out all the free popcorn in the first place as like a sort of protest against the bill? Well, apparently he has decided that Ted Gamble's screaming speech about socialism and human rights was so annoying that he now wants to change his vote and instead support the anti-popcorn bill. Isn't that just crazy? Like, he made this whole show about standing in opposition to the bill, and now he has completely changed his mind and wants to ban popcorn just to spite this one guy. But still, even with Jack Bain flip-flopping like that, the numbers in the hearing are heavily skewed towards the pro-popcorn crowd. The next segment of the hearing is literally just an avalanche of theater owners attacking the bill, because a whole ton of theater owners showed up and they all want to get up there and say something. And the entire time that these theater owners are talking, Senator Mahoney, the angry guy, has for some reason decided that he's just going to start asking everybody who talks if they think that Dean Walker is a socialist. Like, for some reason, that has become his top priority now, to defend the honor of Senator Dean Walker. And so as a result, what we got now is everybody just giving their opinion on if this new law counts as socialism. Like, here's a theater owner from Portland who answers that the bill is a clear move in the direction of state socialism. And then this other owner answers the question by saying, yeah, this smacks just a little of socialism. And then my favorite guy actually comes up and he starts talking about the Declaration of Independence, and he says, people are entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And if popcorn eating is their pursuit of happiness, let them go to it. Eventually, though, the cavalcade of theater owners was exhausted, and one final witness took the stand. A hairdresser from Salem, Oregon, who, hilariously, is there to testify because recently she had been fixing the hair of some of the Oregon State Senators' wives, and during those appointments, the wives admitted to her that they thought that the whole anti-popcorn bill was silly. So she basically got invited there to get on the stand and look all the senators in the eye and say, hey, so all of your wives think this is like super dumb. Like, just so you know, they all think this is dumb. Before the hairdresser could get off the stand, though, old Senator Mahoney just had to get up there and ask his big question one more time. Hello, ma'am. Do you think the man who wrote this bill, Senator Dean Walker, is a socialist? And the hairdresser replies by saying, well, I don't think he's a socialist, but I do think he's a fuddy-duddy if he's bothered by popcorn in movie theaters. And wouldn't you know it, that fuddy-duddy came up short. Just a few days after being introduced, the Oregon State Senate decided that no further action would be taken on the anti-popcorn bill, and so off it went into the pages of history as one of the strangest legislative duels that we'll ever see. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.